Wofford City.
Wofford? Okay. All right. Looks like we are good to go. Doors are shut. So, um, thanks for stopping in for my TED Talk today. I appreciate it. I apologize that I couldn't be there in person. I try and do my best to make sure I can make it to these in person. But unfortunately, this time I could not. So, but with that being said, this is the How to Start an Esports Program, kind of a step by step guide, give you the basic information and some knowledge on how to run your program, what it is, different thing, little tips here and there, stuff like that. Um, so we'll start off with a little bit about myself. I've been involved with esports since I was 11 years old, which was 2003 ish, and I've spent 12 years competing. And out of those 12 years, from 2007 to 2010, I competed in the top 18 on the MLG Pro circuit for the game called Halo. Pretty sure a couple, maybe one or two people have grown up with that game. Um, and I coached my local best friends from never playing the game to playing the top 18 within 6 to 8 months. That was quite an experience as a 15-year-old coaching my friends to do that. I've got over 10 years coaching experience and also managing and helping other esports programs, whether it be professional, scholastic, things like that. Last year with League of Legends, I coached teams in North Dakota and South Dakota, and I led a state championship team, which was Sioux Falls Lincoln, here in South Dakota, to a championship victory, and another team in South Dakota, which was Dual, to a top four finish, and they were considered a top, they were placing somewhere around sixth or seventh last year, or the year before. And then in Valorant, I coached Jamestown, North Dakota's team from a seventh place the year prior to a top four finish at state championship, which was they were a lot of fun to work with. I really enjoyed coaching Jamestown. In Fortnite, I coached Fortnite players across all four Fenworks states. And on average, they were placing around top 30 in their battle royale matches. And after they worked with me, learned how to strategize for it, some other basic skill sets, they were now averaging top 12 placements in their weekly matches, which then allowed most of them to earn enough points to qualify for state tournament. I've also worked with team development and leadership, providing coaching, advising, and management support to various competitive and scholastic esports teams. And then I've also founded my own little nonprofit side gig for esports, for Scholastic Esports, which is the High Caliber Esports Academy. I'm working to build the academy and empower and develop scholastic esports programs with a focus on player development, program infrastructure, and comprehensive support. Includes off-season leagues for, say, like boys and girls clubs, after-school programs. I'm working to try and help support Fenworks through creating a pipeline from late elementary, middle school into the high school league so that kids can now learn these esports skills at a younger age and then carry them on to these high school programs and create a lasting support system. Because every other high school sport has it, esports is still building that, and that's what I'm trying to do to help Fenworks out with that pipeline. So first things first, communicate with your peers. So there's three of you here that have managed your esports programs. Let's create. So one of the things is make sure you guys communicate throughout the year, help each other out. Communication across the school districts in your state. This is, you guys are the trailblazers for this, for this new program that's starting to take over that's starting to take over the scholastic space. You guys need to help each other out, give each other tips and tricks. Whenever you guys find something that works for you, somebody else is having an issue, make sure you voice it. Use the Discord channels, use the Fenworks Discord channel if you can, to talk to other GMs or email each other something. Another thing is, always keep that Fenworks Discord server up. I know Fenworks is also working to create an internal general managers system inside their own software, which again, you guys will be able to talk with Fenworks staff and to each other. So you're going to have now two modes of communication outside of the school, outside of emailing each other. So one, intro to esports. What is esports? What do you need to ask yourself when starting to plan out your program? Esports is video game competition that's played in a highly organized and competitive environment. These games can range from popular team-oriented multiplayer online battle arenas, MOBAs, which is what League of Legends is, or Pokemon Unite, if you've ever heard of that, two-player fighting games like Super Smash Bros, Tekken, to survival battle royales like Fortnite and Apex Legends, to virtual reconstructions of physical sports like FIFA or Madden or NHL hockey. Those are all games that can be considered esports titles. Esports growth, it's projected to grow from 2.6 billion in 2024 to almost 9.5 billion by 2032, and I believe this estimation has now changed. I believe that 9 billion is now raised a number or two. Bigger than MLB and NHL combined. By 2020, 70 million people watched a single esports final, which is higher than the viewership for the U.S. professional baseball, soccer, and hockey finals. And that was for League of Legends, which is the next one. According to Riot Games, the developer of League of Legends, the 2021 League of Legends World Championship garnered a peak viewership of 74 million people around the world. The peak viewership for the Super Bowl at that same year was 92 million people. So it's catching up. Esports for students, who plays? This number is actually higher now. It's somewhere in the 90s range. 90% of American teens play video games in some way, shape, or form. And at least 41% of that 90% play them once a day. Grades go up. Schools that have students who take part in high school esports on average see those student GPAs raised by 1.7 points. One example of this is there is the esports general manager for Stafford Municipal School District in New Jersey. In 2021, they started their program. He saw an average cumulative GPA increase of all the students in there. He combined all of them, go from 2.9 to 3.1 in the first year. And then from 2022, it went from 3.1 to 3.3. Out of the 12 seniors in his program, 8 of them had offers from colleges and universities with scholarships attached. Three of those 8 seniors had full ride offers to school to play esports. So out of 12 seniors, 11 of them were accepted into university esports programs with scholarship opportunities. And then in 2022, Dakota State University esports athlete Kayla Colwell was one of 10 people in the nation awarded a $10,000 scholarship from the Gen G Foundation. And I actually helped start that esports program back in 2010 as an esports club when I was going to school at DSU. Go Trojans. Majority of state and private colleges in South Dakota surrounding states offer esports scholarships averaging between $500 to $2,000. And that's just local scholarships from the colleges. Your first 3 questions. Question 1, who's your school's general manager? They run the program and help with supervising, the scheduling, and stat tracking if that's something you want to do. Question 2, how many students are interested? You already have gamers in your school, you just really have to find them, which should be easier than not finding them. They're everywhere now. Question number 3, what games can they play? This will help determine the amount of teams, equipment, needs, and budget. So what games? You're going to be playing just Smash Bros, and that's the case. All you need is Nintendo Switches. Are you going to be playing Valorant? If you're going to be playing Valorant, you're going to need a computer. Are you going to be playing Fortnite? If your team is just playing, if your school is just playing Fortnite, you could be playing it on 3 different types of systems all at once because it's a cross-play game. Let's see. And then if your school is going to let students play League of Legends, or let's see, if they play League of Legends, yeah, you'll need gaming PCs for the best performance. Again, you can play Fortnite on an Xbox if you wanted to and get pretty good performance off of it. Let's see. And then let's go build a support team. General manager. You'll need your general manager who's going to be managing the students. Your in-game coaches, you can either hire those if you want, or your general manager can act as a coach if they know the games and know how to break the games down with the students. And then your school's IT support, they're going to be integral to making sure your program can actually take part. They're going to be setting up the virtual LANs. They're going to be also working on the computers, probably maybe even on a weekly basis to update them, because you're going to have driver updates for computer hardware, software updates for the games on a weekly basis. So it's integral that you keep your IT guy on your good side. Make him some coffee cake. I don't know, bring him some coffee in the morning or something. Just make sure the IT guy or gal is on your side and you guys get along well. Another thing is be a leader, not just a manager. Set the bar. You want to try and push your kids for 100% attendance. Again, this is a competitive this is a competitive activity. So think of it as like your basketball, your football, track and everything like that. When somebody doesn't show up for practice unless they're really sick or somebody died, when I was growing up, we got benched. And if we didn't have a doctor's note to show our coach, we got benched that Friday. Push for 90% attendance because then you're going to be creating that consistency for the kids and you're going to be seeing them grow throughout the program. Otherwise, if they can just go willy-nilly, you're not going to have a successful program. You got to set the bar for the students and make it a reality for them that they have to show up, they have to be serious. This can almost be like a fun job in a sense, and they need to make sure that they can take it seriously. Like other sports, coaches and managers should get to know each student and create a mentor-like relationship. You also get to know who is friends with who outside of practice and how to get a hold of other students if need be. If somebody doesn't show up, they're missing, or they're having grade issues, things like that, you know who to talk to help support the student. Recruiting students. Remember, you have more gamers in your school than non-gamers. Use your school's email list. Send out beginning of the year before preseason starts or something. Send out a school-wide email that says, "Hey, we're going to have most schools do like a beginning of the year sports meeting with students and parents." Send out a school-wide email that sets up the same meeting but for esports. And then you can and then kids will come in, get involved. Maybe they bring their parents in for it. It's imperative that you get the parents involved because this is such a new activity. A lot of parents are still skeptical about it. And getting them to come in for the sports meeting will allow them to see the benefits that this new program provides through better grades, STEM learning, and getting them into technology like fields. Because everything from doing the work that I do, which is IT, to being a mechanic now involves some sort of IT work through software updates, everything like that. So it's imperative that your students get to know how to work with technology related things, and that's what esports does. I wouldn't be in the field I'm in now if I hadn't started in esports, because when I started in high school getting into in middle school getting into esports, I was interested in learning graphic design, web design, how how the games worked in the back end, because that helps you better understand how the games break down and how you can use the game's engine to your advantage when you're playing at a competitive level. And those are all things to include. Like I was just saying, tie esports to other subjects, which is jobs, event production, broadcast production, IT, marketing, design, and finance. When I did this presentation just a couple weeks ago down in North Sioux City, Nebraska, or South Dakota, at Dakota Valley, one of the Dakota Valley students gave their broadcast production presentation, and it was absolutely amazing. The amount of knowledge that kid has in the field that he's going to college for sets him up for success, and that's because he's been doing it for his 4 years 4 years at Dakota Valley while he's going to school there, and he has built this whole thing to be almost ESPN level production quality. And it was so good to see a kid that young be that knowledgeable in the field that he wants to do his career in. And that was all possible through their esports program. If they didn't have it, he wouldn't have built this skill set and have the tools and the support system to do that. Equipment. Gaming computers built for speed and performance. Your controllers, mice, and keyboards. Stable internet is one of the most important things. If you can, I would highly recommend that you get your own dedicated fiber line to your esports lab. I know some schools, budget wise, that's not affordable, so you do a virtual LAN connection in there so you can play the games. But if you really can, try to get a dedicated fiber line so you have the best performance and connection as possible. When you're looking at your computers, you're going to want at least a mid-grade gaming PC. with that's has a decent processor, enough RAM. I would recommend like 16 gigabytes is minimum. A high end graphics card, all of which work to ensure a smooth, lag free gameplay. If your program is buying Nintendo Switch 2s, you can utilize the Nintendo Switch 2's new game share feature, um, which is really helpful because then you only have to buy one copy of Smash Bros to play on the Nintendo Switch 2, and then you can share that to another Switch in your esports lab. So that's saving you another like what $70 for the game, $60-$70 on budget for your system to then put into either maybe another headset or like a backup headset in case one breaks, or a mouse or two, things like that. So utilize the Nintendo Switch 2's game share feature if you guys are going to purchase those here this year. It just save you a little bit of money on buying games so you can share them. And then make sure your computers and game consoles are connected via hardwire and you're not running off your school's Wi-Fi. Um, LAN, your local area connection, your hardwire to your school's network is going to be the best. It's going to give you the best performance. I have had lots of issues over the last year of coaching where schools weren't running their systems um, through their hardwire. They were using their school's Wi-Fi, and their kids were constantly dropping. I couldn't hardly see what they were playing, how they were playing because the video would get too blurry, things like that when they were trying to share their screens with me. And again, don't skimp out on buying cheap off-brand Amazon computers, mice, and keyboards. If you're gonna purchase anything, and you want to be budget friendly, I would highly recommend SteelSeries brand, um, SteelSeries brand controllers, mice, um, headsets. I've used SteelSeries headsets for the last 10 years. Um, they're perfect. They have really good sound quality. They're really budget friendly, but they are extremely competitive. They are very competitively viable products, and they're one of the best. Well, they have one of the best peripheral softwares out there to then work alongside the hardware. And then when you're looking at your monitors, when you're looking at your computer monitors, I would focus on a high refresh rate monitor, not so much screen size. You want to stay at like 21 to 23 inch screen size for your games, because that gives you a low response time, somewhere in the 0 to 1 milliseconds response time. So when you click the button on the controller on your keyboard, that action then happens instantaneously on your monitor. If you have like a 5 to 7 millisecond response time on your monitor, you'll click it and you'll notice a delay, and then the action will happen on your monitor, because it takes that long for the monitor to then change the LEDs and the picture on the monitor for it to show. Another thing is your refresh rate. You want that to be a high refresh rate, somewhere around, I would say, minimum 120 hertz. Most nowadays are 144 hertz, minimum. That's kind of standard now. They are getting all the way up to 240 hertz. But 144 hertz monitors are perfect. And then again, try and stay in that 1 millisecond response time range for your monitors. Chairs, try and get ergonomic chairs, because your kids are sitting in really bad desk chairs all day. You don't want them being uncomfortable, getting bad back posture while they're playing. That's going to hurt the performance because they're going to be uncomfortable. They're not going to be completely focused while they're competing or practicing. My recommended specs for a gaming computer, when I spec'd these out, they were about about $1,000 to $1,100. But again, times are changing, prices are going up a little bit, so this has probably gone up by a couple $100. Um, Processor, at least an Intel i5 processor or a Ryzen 5 9600X. At least 16 gigabytes of RAM on your computer, because bare minimum for most software today is between like 6 gigs of RAM, and that only leaves your computer 2 more gigs of RAM to run, and it takes 4 minimum for Windows just to run on your computer. So try and run with 16 gigs of RAM. That way you have a little bit extra there to give your computer more multitasking power for the games. And then for your graphics card, I would go with something no less than like a 4060 or even down to a 3070 NVIDIA graphics card, or even if you're going to use AMD is really the only competitor to NVIDIA's graphics cards, and I have used myself AMD systems for the last 10 years. And AMD is more budget friendly than NVIDIA and Intel, but it's just as powerful. But again, you're going to save yourself maybe $300 by going AMD rather than going NVIDIA or Intel. And then make sure you get a liquid cooling processor. That way, your computers stay nice and cool. They're not overheating. You're not gonna bog your performance down from the temperature increasing. And also try and always make sure that on top of the liquid cooling, you have 2 or 3 case fans inside of your computer to help push air in or bring air in and push it out in a controlled manner so they stay cleaner, better airflow, things like that. Number 2, let's go with planning your space. How to plan your esports center or your esports lab. Create a flexible space. A space outfitted with cutting edge computers can also be used for CAD related or STEM related fields, like, or STEM related classes. Say like drone racing, like you guys are going to do, like you guys might sign up for, you guys could sign up for like the broadcast production class that Fenworks is going to offer. This will allow your students to then use these high end computers to build a broadcast, live stream it, and then you're also giving them educational opportunities outside of the esports, the esports program. It also offers up more opportunity for you to get grants in different private grants, because we don't know exactly what's happening with a lot of federal grants now that with everything going out to the Department of Education. But having these computers over consoles like the Xbox or something like that will allow you to access more opportunities for your kids outside of the esports program. Points to consider in your esports lab: square footage for any esports room. Try to plan for at least 1,000 to 1,200 square feet of space for every, I would say 20 students. That's about your average classroom size, is about 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. Some schools will stick 30 kids in there, but again, you need to make sure that the room has safe pathways to walk through in case of a fire. They're not tripping over each other. You're not overcrowding it. All those people aren't going to make it too hot. Make sure you have ergonomic chairs and desks. Again, help the kids get good posture. They're comfortable. They're able to focus on their competition and practice. Your general manager and broadcast station. So let's say like in one corner of the room, you have so that the general manager can see what's going on in the room, make sure everybody's staying focused. They're not goofing off. They're not going to break something. They're not teasing other players, things like that, or bothering them during their practice or match. You can see that there. And then again, that also gives you time and a space to work with the students who are interested in maybe running your esports team's broadcast to your school's Facebook page or YouTube channel, things like that. Create areas for strategizing and collaboration with each other during film and VOD reviews. Just like basketball, football, things like that, you're going to be running film so you can see your players' mistakes, where their communication is lacking, take some notes, go from there. Try to make those film review stations maybe like a standing desk, so that way they're not sitting all day. They're standing, they're stretching their legs. They can, kind of move around a little bit while they're going over it. They could walk up to the smart board if you guys are going to use a smart board, and they can go over things together and circle stuff. If you guys are setting up a whole new room for this, and try and include planning for your electrical so you can handle the extra electrical, electrical surge that's going to be coming from this room to your breaker. And then also plan for your networking ports for your internet hard lines. That way they can just plug in maybe to wall outlets, and you're not running cables all over the room or the floor. And then again, this is just a minor thing, but it can happen. You're going to have a bunch of sweaty teenagers in a compact room with a bunch of little mini space heaters, and because these computers can turn into space heaters, they might get a little pungent with sweaty teenagers. Make sure you got proper ventilation. That way there's cool air coming in the room. The computers are getting cool air. The students are not, you're not overheating everybody. And here's kind of a basic classroom layout. I took the size of what a basic classroom is. You take 10 PCs, 6 Xboxes for, like, let's say your students are going to play Rocket League on the Xboxes. or Fortnite or something. And then you have your 10 PCs for your Valorant and your League of Legends players. And then you have two Switch consoles down here on the next to the door, kind of. So it creates kind of a safe walking path through the middle and around the edges of the room. You have your manager broadcast station up in the right so they can see everything going on. You have a standing collaboration area next to the manager station so that when they're going through VOD review, you as the manager can then also work with them on how to talk through these situations. Let's say they start getting into an argument or they're having issues learning how to lead each other. You can then step in and help go through film review with them and help them learn how to communicate these things to each other and talk through the VOD review. So that's just kind of a basic layout of what a classroom could look like with an esports lab. Program goals and practice. Healthy students are better gamers. Try your best to make it healthy. Esports is a sedentary activity. Try to, and it's less physical motion, and a lot of things that are marketed like drinks and snacks and stuff in the esports scene are really unhealthy. So you need to try and get them to be drinking water, eat healthy food, snacks, things like that. When I was playing football, we had a rule that if we got caught drinking soda during football season, we were doing extra conditioning all week. Didn't matter what it was. Try and force those kids to drink as much water as possible. It's going to help with reaction time. It's going to help them sleep, things like that. And then again, make sure the kids are going home and getting enough sleep. They're not going home and gaming more for 4 or 5 hours every night. That's another thing to get the parents involved. They're already going to school, then coming to practice for 2-3 hours afterwards. They need to go home, eat, get their sleep so that they're rested for the next day. They can think through things appropriately. Their reaction time is on point, everything like that. You also have to put in 100%. Just like other sports, the program success is also tied to how much effort you put in yourself as the program manager. Just like, if any of you have ever seen Major Payne, he's kind of a role model for me. He was, even though he didn't know these students very well, the students that were under his charge in the ROTC program that he was taking charge of the movie, he gave it everything. And those students, by the end of the movie, learned that he was there to really be there for them and make sure that they were successful in the ROTC program. 4 pillars of success for your esports program. Managing your students. Teach your students how to be responsible leaders and teammates. This is a program that can allow students to lead other students, step into that leadership role, gain essential skills in communication, teamwork, things like that. Let them take the lead in a lot of ways, because again, they do know the games a little better than most program managers. So they're going to be able to step up, lead their other students. So you are there to manage them and then also help the ones who are really good at leading others step into those roles, gain those skills, things like that. Scheduling and attendance, consistency. You have to make sure that this is a consistent program, that the students are consistently showing up for practice, matches, and that they are being consistent with their practice time, that they're not goofing off, teasing other players, bothering other people. Just like a classroom or an actual practice field for another sport, you're making sure the kids are being consistent. Physical activity. I am a little bit of an odd person, and a lot of people think this is odd that I advocate for physical activity during an esports program. Take a day or two out of the week, do a team building activity or do team conditioning at the end of a practice, just like football or basketball, or do a warm up before they start. Because when I was competing, I would come home after a sports practice where I've just done a bunch of conditioning. I worked out for 2 hours basically. I'd come home, my hands are warm, the blood's flowing. It helps your mind think faster, helps you get more creative with your gameplay. Try to create some kind of physical activity, even if it's just playing dodgeball for 20 minutes at the end of practice as a team building exercise that gets them moving. Do something that creates some sort of physical activity throughout the week for them during practice. Again, and then another one is marketing your team. Your school markets the heck out of your basketball, football, track, wrestling, every volleyball teams. Make sure you are marketing and that you have the school administration support to market your team in the same manner using your school's Facebook pages, whatever social media you use. Send send updates to your local news station that may be updating your community on their games, their schedules, things like that. Market your team, because the more eyes that are on your program, the more support it's going to get and the more legitimate it's going to be. Try and use your school's Facebook page, because most parents nowadays are on Facebook and pay attention for school updates there. It also creates a notification on their phone that, hey, your school's esports team is now live and playing against Bismarck's high school or something like that. Tips to stay consistent: email list. Create a team email list inside of your school's email system, whether that be Google or Outlook. Send an email at the beginning of each week with your schedule for the players, what their coaching schedule is, when they're going to be working with a Fenworks coach, or when their league match is going to play, when your film review is going to be, when their coaching sessions, matches, and even your social media posts. That way, if you have students who are interested in marketing and want to market your team's social media post and broadcast through the school Facebook page, let them work with them and let them lead that. Because again, this is them learning how to do it. This then gets those who are interested in broadcast or marketing into using the school's Facebook page to then set up Facebook posts, maybe set up an ad through there, and then they start to learn how these social media marketing systems work. The Fenworks Discord. Keep the Fenworks Discord server open during the day. This will help you stay consistent on knowing what's going on for the week. This will show, that way you're seeing what the Fenworks staff is posting about, what students are posting about, what issues there may be, if there's a new up, if there was some kind of bug crash that made Fortnite go down for a day, something like that. So then you have to reschedule something. Keep the Fenworks Discord server up as much as humanly possible during the day while you're at work and during practice. Student leaders, pick your team captains not based on who's the best at the game, but who thinks strategically and takes ownership of the team and of their actions. Help them take the lead by letting them manage the team for you when they aren't at practice. Let the team captains oversee their team's email schedule for the week. Make sure they send it to you before they email it out, so that way you are still managing them and making sure everything's ready and right. But let them take the lead on writing that email up, sending it out, making sure that there's any updates throughout the week via that. Let them take the lead on it. Manage them. Don't put everything on yourself. Give them the opportunity to be responsible and lead the team in their own way. Consistency, you're going to hear that a lot. Consistency is key. A lot of esports managers treat the esports program like it's optional to show up, and they don't get a successful program out of it. Their kids don't qualify for state. Their kids aren't showing up to practice. They're now wasting money on coaching because they're not forcing their kids to be there. They're not making it a necessary, a need to be to practice to be able to participate. Create a structured routine. Create a daily or weekly schedule that includes focused practice, reviewing professional gameplay, your own gameplay, and your team's practice matches and their actual league matches. Specific drills. Incorporate game-specific drills like aim training and first-person shooters to target weaknesses and improve performance. Or set up, like for League of Legends, set up a farming drill for your players who are not farming gold as much as the enemy team, or they're struggling with it when they're in an actual match. Learn to set up a drill, or work with your students on how they can think about making a drill for farming. Or let's say Rocket League, let's say they're having struggles with Rocket League movement tech, where they aren't getting their boost off in the way that they should to either play defensively or offensively. Figure out ways to create these drills. Just like basketball and traditional sports, esports has mechanical skill sets that the students have to learn and practice. It's not just playing the game to play the game and compete. They need to be practicing drills. When I was coaching my friends how to play Halo, I was coaching them on crosshair placement. Make sure your crosshairs in the center of your screen, so that way when somebody shows up on any part of your screen, you aren't having to swipe all the way across it, so you can react faster to it. Another thing was map call out, so that they knew what areas of the maps were called what. So when we're calling out one player here, they knew exactly where to look. And for a drill for that was we would play a free for all where it was all four of us on a map. And whenever they saw me on the map, they had to call me out and what location I was. And if they were wrong, they had to do 5 push-ups. That was something I did with my friends, and it was fun. We enjoyed the heck out of it. They learned all the maps we played on in like 4 days because we just created a fun drill out of it. Physical well-being. Physical well-being, prioritize sleep, healthy eating, and physical activity to maintain energy levels and improve reflexes. Muscle memory is extremely key. Again, making sure you're hydrated and have enough sleep. And then mindset. Cultivate a growth mindset focusing on learning from mistakes and consistently striving for improvements rather than solely on results. Here's an acronym from nasef.org. They're the National Academy for Scholastic Esports Foundation. Growth, activity, mind, environment, and relationship and sustenance. Its acronym is GAMERS. Have I accomplished my school and personal responsibilities for the day? Are my grades good enough so that I can play? To ensure growth and progress. Activity. Have I completed any physical activity today prior to playing the game? Mind. Did I get enough rest, relaxation, and sleep to recharge my mind for gameplay? Environment. Is my physical environment safe, comfortable, and decluttered for me to game? That way they're not getting sick, they're wiping things down. There's not chairs and tables everywhere. They're not going to trip and fall and break a finger. Relationships. Have I nurtured my relationships by connecting with the people I care about outside of gameplay? I'm not just sitting at home playing all day. Going home after I'm practicing. I'm going home, talking with my parents, hanging out with friends in my off time. And sustenance. Have I provided healthy sustenance to my body by eating and drinking enough water prior to gameplay? Put this acronym up in your esports lab or something like that, just as a reminder. Create team cohesion and trust. Create team bonding activities like your physical activity time, like dodgeball on a Friday night practice. Maybe you guys do a movie night or something. Just something. Create ways for your students to get together outside of practice or at the end of it to then build trust in each other. Because the more your team hangs out together and knows each other on a personal level outside of practice, the better they're going to play in game because they're going to understand how each other thinks. They're going to naturally start doing things with each other that wasn't happening at the beginning of the season because they're getting to know each other better. Again, Major Payne once said, a squad that lives together wins together. Unity, turds, that is the key word in unit without the Y. And that was a small speech near the beginning of the movie when the kids first come in and they're all their own individuals. They're not thinking like a team is. And that's one thing you have to get through these kids, the kids' minds, is that they are a team. They are their own individuals, but when they're here, they're a team. They're one group of people, and they need to think and work like that so that they can be successful. Let the students lead. I'm big advocate for this. I've said it multiple times already. Teach leadership and teamwork through student action and decisions. Let them take control of certain things, the schedule, the broadcast, the marketing of the team, things like that. Develop team structure. Just like traditional sports, esports teams need structure. Conduct tryouts at the beginning. Determine varsity, JV, and team sizes. Determine leadership roles. Who's going to be your team captain, co-captain? Who's going to be the match IGL or in-game leader? Who's calling shots in the game? Determine player roles inside the games. Who's going to be a support player? Who's going to be an offensive or defensive player in Rocket League? Things like that. Determine your team structure so everybody knows what their job is. Find game-specific coaches. This step is completely optional and centered around your team's, your school's budget and what your goals are for your program and your teams. You can get constructive feedback from coaches. It's a third set of eyes outside of you and your students. Your students are probably really good at the game, but have they played at a professional level and know what little minor things to look for? A lot of the times they forget about the basic stuff, and that's a lot of the things that I coach about is the basics. Then you naturally work your way into the advanced stuff. I've coached a student last year who was competing at almost a professional level, but again, he was forgetting basic things, and a lot of it, and some of it was even communication. And so I was on him about these basic things, and he didn't understand why. And then as they started figuring, early in the season he didn't understand it. And then as they started moving through, these things started he started doing these basic things again more naturally, and their team really started to improve because he was becoming more of a team instead of an individual player, a team player instead of an individual player. Again, narrow down bad habits and drills. We know how to break the games down. We can help your team brainstorm drill sets to work on these mechanical skills and things like that. Structuring your practice regimen. 50% of your practice should probably be in-game time in some way, shape, or form. This is a time the team spends playing the game together in a team environment. 30% of your time should be research and review. Spend this time watching film, studying other teams, pro players. Make sure you guys are also scouting the teams you're going to play against. That way you can strategize how they play, especially with Valorant. With Valorant, scouting the enemy team is extremely crucial to knowing how you're going to play your matchup. So research and review should be at least 30% of your time. 20% of your practice should be drills, where you're using aim trainers. You're going through in-game drills to learn mechanical skills, whether it be Fortnite building, Rocket League boosts, things like that, to help them learn the fundamentals and use those as warm-ups. Use a lot of those drills that you're doing to learn these mechanical skills as warm-ups. That way their fingers get warmed up, they start thinking, maybe they learn something new that they can then use when they're actually playing. A basic practice schedule. Let's say you do your students get out of school at 3:20. You give them 10 minutes to show up to practice. They check in. Each team for a game has their own team huddle where they then know what they're going over from the weekly schedule. So then they talk through what's going to happen today, and they focus on those things, on those topics that they wrote about, or that the captain and you came up with for the weekly schedule for that day. So that way they know what's going on. They're going into it with a mission, and they're not just going to be goofing around just playing the game just to play. This creates focus for the team. 350, for 10 minutes they're doing warm-up drills. They're practicing those mechanical skill sets, warming up, getting their fingers warmed up, the blood flowing a little bit. 5:15, which is an hour and 15 minutes, they do 30. Let's say they do 30 practice matches in Fortnite, where they just start running a bunch of practice matches against each other, where they're practicing, working on their teamwork. Then 5:15 to 5:40, they're running film review. Maybe they're doing more drills after they do film review on the things they were talking about, saying that I needed to do a little bit more of this. I need to work on that a little bit more. So after film review, they go work on those things that they found out that they saw in film review. 5:40 to 6 o'clock, the last 20 minutes, you do your physical activity, whether that be conditioning to help keep the kids in shape, or you guys do your team building dodgeball match, something like that, or sharks and minnows. I don't know, whatever you guys decide to do. That's kind of a structured practice schedule, an example of one that you guys can then build off of. Budget and funding, how to determine budget and how to fund it. Esports costs can vary widely. I started an esports program 2 years ago for the Boys and Girls Club in Pierce, South Dakota. Their initial budget was $6,500. I built a buy list, and then created a list for them, showed them everything they needed for the games that they wanted to play. And then also left a little bit of extra room for extra supplies for, if the kid broke a controller by accident, they had an extra controller on hand. They didn't have to put that system completely to the side or something. Full computer station, including accessories and furniture. So this is desk, monitor, headset, mice, keyboards, chair, computer, all that can cost up to about $2,500. Some gaming computers can cost upwards of $4,000 if you guys are really going for the highest end material. And then again, you're going to be upgrading your computers and your consoles and stuff probably once every 5 years. It's about every 5 to 7 years that Xbox and PlayStation or Switch come out with a new console. It's about every 5 to 7 years. But if you're playing on a computer, on a PC, you're going to want to be upgrading that stuff at least every 5 years, because that stuff that you're going to really need that, because software starts to overtake it extremely quickly. Here's a basic PC equipment list and console equipment list. Let's say your computer's $1,000 You're using an on Walmart brand monitor, which is 144 hertz refresh rate and a 1 millisecond response time. That's all you need. That's really all you need. It's $150. You're not spending $400 or $500 on the top of the line HP Omen computer monitor. You're playing with an on brand Walmart brand monitor. It's going to last you 5 years, and it's got the basic standard statistics that you need to play. You're using SteelSeries mice, keyboards, headsets, and then I went and found a cheap ergonomic chair that's comfortable for your students to play in for $220. And then let's say you get a standard 36-inch desk for your student to play on, for to put the computer monitor on and then play on. All that costs you just about $1,800. And then a console equipment list. Let's say you're going to be using consoles more than computers. You're not going to be playing League of Legends or Valorant, so you guys can just run consoles for everything and save some money. An Xbox Series S runs you $350 for Fortnite, or even Marvel Rivals, because they're both crossplay. On monitor, 144 hertz, 100 milliseconds again. You're saving almost $1,000 there, and it comes down to just under $1,200 for a whole setup for a console equipment list. And then your school registration fee per game, student per game. I think my student per game may be wrong now. I haven't double checked with Jake or anybody to see if those were correct anymore. I probably should, but. And then let's say your students are going to play in 5 games. That's $5,000 for your school. You're going to have 15 students at $150. No travel during regular season. That's $0. And if your students then place for state tournament, then you got to spend maybe not even a third of what the football team spends to travel around for practice in the state championship or for regular season playoffs and state. And then 11 PC stations will cost you about $21,000. That covers 10 computers, so you can have both a full Fortnite team and a full League of Legends team practicing at one time, and then have a manager broadcast station off in the corner. All right. So total cost for equipment there would be about $28,000, $250. And then for the console equipment, again, you're saving quite a bit of money because you're only spending $350 on a console instead of $1,000 or almost $1,200 for a computer. Your total budget comes down to about $18,000. These are some funding resources. Some of these were federal. Some of these are also private. This is a resource you guys can then come back to later when you guys want to look through the presentation, and then help out and then look through some of these grants, see if they're still available to try and help your school out a little bit. And then that's the end of my presentation. That's the basic how to start and run it and basic information you need. Do you guys, if there's any questions, you guys can go ahead and ask. I'm willing to answer just about anything. So, but otherwise, my email is there. My phone number is. If you guys again have any questions, you guys can also reach out to me. I'm also in all the Fenworks Discord servers because I coach for them during the season. Feel free to reach out to me for any questions. Fenworks is also available. They're really good about helping you guys out, and I do the same thing. So, any questions?
Yeah, the equipment.
Yeah.
For the consoles.
Uh-huh.
I'm at the collegiate level, like just from a streaming standpoint, like you're streaming, Facebook or wherever you decide to stream.
Yep.
Like how can we get multiple consoles
to stream? So
yeah.
what you would need to do for that is you'll have to get what's called a capture card, and the brand the brand you want for that is Elgato, Elgato capture card. You will then connect all of those capture cards to what's called an HDMI switch. So basically it's just what a network switch is, your network switch. So it's basically just a switch for HDMI cables that you can physically then switch those over or run those into one computer, broadcast computer, and then you'll have multiple console video sources running to your computer, and then you can just create a source for those in OBS or whatever streaming software you use to then show on the screen for your broadcast. Yep.
So, would you recommend having separate streaming services for like the different computer games running at the same time? Like, I don't know what the Fenworks schedule is going to look like, but if I have two students or two teams playing two separate games of, league at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Would I be spectating both games and having two separate streams going at the same time? Like, uh, can you do that off of one computer? Can you spectate two different teams at the same time?
You would be putting a lot of strain on the computer. I would run each stream off a different computer if you could. I would not
Sure.
recommend running two different streams off one computer. It's possible, but it's really complicated to set up, and it's really hard it's really hard for the computer to do.
Sure.
Especially for the type of computer. You guys aren't going to be spending. If you had a $5,000-$6,000 computer, you wouldn't have an issue doing. You would have no issues doing it. But a lot of the computers that you guys are going to be purchasing are going to be somewhat budget friendly, and so that's what they're going to struggle with that in general. So I would try to do it off two different computers.
Great.
Move this over here so I can. There we go. But otherwise, I'll let you guys leave. You guys, I'm pretty sure they didn't lock the door on you. I don't have. There's not a whole lot else right now, other than if you guys have any more further questions or any other talking points you guys want to go over. Because I'll you guys, if any of you guys are attending How to Coach Fortnite this afternoon, I'll be doing that virtually as well. And again, that's pretty closely related to how this is set up when it comes to the basic knowledge of what Fortnite is and how to break the game down into coaching standards.
Perfect. No, thank you.
Yep. All righty. Thanks for attending, guys. And hopefully I can talk with some of you or work with some of you later. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. There's going to be another session